Birmingham, Alabama, June 2023. No rain, but the humidity clung to every wall of the courtroom like a second skin. The air conditioner ran nonstop, yet it did nothing to lift the weight pressing down like lead. All 86 seats were filled before the session began. Reporters from both local and national outlets were present. Cameras were locked in, most of them trained on the defendant standing inside the dock. James Carter, born 1996, released from prison 4 years ago, convicted of rape. No physical evidence, no witnesses, no DNA testing, no legal representation at the time of his confession. The file is clear. Initial trial duration 3 days. Time served 7 years. Social impact high. Community response minimal. 10 years later, same name, same city, same justice system. But this time the court had a different purpose. Not to judge the crime, but to judge the process that created it. At the bench, presiding Judge Judy, female, 29 years of administrative experience, known for her zero tolerance toward institutional manipulation. She gave no opening remarks. She didn't restate the charges. She spoke only once, quoting directly from the court's internal audio log. "We are not retrying the case from 10 years ago. We are trying those who made it a stain on the law." Court records note the room stayed completely silent for 8 full seconds after she spoke. No shuffling of papers, no camera clicks, no audible reactions. In that silence, the defendant James Carter spoke a single sentence, recorded exactly as said without revision. "I signed that confession, but no one ever asked me why I signed it." According to the court clerk, no objections, no rebuttals, no motion to interrupt. From that moment on, the hearing officially entered a phase of pre-conviction review. Page by page, line by line, every record was reopened. And from that moment forward, justice was no longer a verdict. It became a process of facing the truth. No interruptions, no snap judgments, no more silence. Original statement filed the 14th of June 2012, accompanied by the Birmingham Police Department's arrest report and a 3-page interrogation transcript with no attorney signature. Victim Emily Harris, age 23, reported being assaulted in North Park on the night of the 13th of June. No witnesses, no surveillance footage, no forensic examination was performed at the time the complaint was filed. That same morning, a black teenager was arrested outside a grocery store on Princeton Avenue. James Carter, age 16, wearing a white t-shirt backpack on his shoulder, unarmed. According to the file, he was on his way to the public library. Personal journal entry noted preparing scholarship application for an engineering program. The arrest report shows no search warrant, no subpoena, no reading of Miranda rights, no notification of a legal guardian. Interrogation began at 11:03 a.m., ended at 1:12 p.m. During the entire session, no lawyer present, no parent or guardian, no audio recording, only a 3-page handwritten confession, pre-filled. The confession included language far too complex for high school level writing. Sentence structures were inconsistent with James's schoolwork. On the final page, the handwriting trembled slightly, the last line drifted out of alignment. Signs of coercion were present. The last page bore James's signature. No attorney countersignature. No psychological evaluation or cognitive competency assessment at the time of signing. The report concluded that James admitted to assaulting Emily Harris. Alleged time of incident between 9:00 and 10:00 p.m. the 13th of June. Witness statement from a neighbor placed James at home at 7:30 p.m. No follow-up investigation. No independent verification. 3 days later, closed court hearing. No cross-examination. No witnesses. No DNA testing. James Carter was sentenced to 7 years in prison. The verdict was based on a confession signed in isolation and an accusation never challenged in open court. Outside the courtroom that day, no one asked James where he was that night. No one asked if he understood what he had signed. No one questioned why, in a file thick with paperwork, there wasn't a single line that reflected the truth of a 16-year-old boy. That summer, James Carter never made it to the library. He was transferred to a juvenile detention center on the west side of the city, assigned a number in place of a name, and erased from every engineering scholarship program in the state of Alabama. The file box was brought to the witness stand on the 18th of March. Physical evidence preserved solely by the defendant's family. It came in a reused cardboard box from Safeway. The tape across the lid had yellowed with time. 3 overlapping layers, one of them torn. Handwriting along the side of the box, blue ink. Cheap ballpoint pen. Top line J. Carter, all of it. Second line, don't let silence kill it again. Inside 37 documents, including a copy of the original trial transcript, photocopy of the police report. 21 letters sent, no replies received. Keeper of the box, Sarah Carter, occupation janitor at Lincoln Heights Elementary School. Education high school diploma, family single mother, no private attorney, no bail posted at time of arrest. Tucked between 2 pages was a handwritten note from Sarah. I don't know the law. I don't know how to file a lawsuit. All I know is how to tape the folder shut every time it tore. Because if I can't keep it whole, then how do I prove my son was ever broken? Every letter she sent was typed at the public library. Every envelope had a handwritten message on the back. Please read this file. Please listen to me, just once. The list of recipients included the Public Defender's Office, Alabama State Bar Association, local newspapers, city news stations, 3 state representatives, and 1 letter sent directly to the federal courthouse. No agency confirmed receipt. No letter was returned. She kept the box intact for 10 years. No new covers, no wiped fingerprints, no edits, no surrender. On the 15th of October 2022, Sarah Carter volunteered at a church food drive hosted by Mount Zion Baptist Church. There she crossed paths by chance with Judge Judy. No cameras, no press, no script. According to the judge's personal notes, Sarah approached. No name given, no kneeling, no tears. She placed the box on a folding table and said only this: if you read it all and still believe he's guilty, I'll burn it myself. That was all. She walked away as the food drive wrapped up. No phone number, no request for follow-up. But that evening, the box was opened, and the papers inside were no longer just memories. They became living evidence. Not collected by law, not notarized by the system, just preserved by a mother who refused to let her son be buried in someone else's file. The reinvestigation of the case officially began on the 20th of November, under a motion to reopen filed under Statute 45C, Severe Procedural Misconduct. The scope of inquiry was limited to 3 elements. 1. The validity of the signed confession. 2. The authenticity of the original evidence. 3. The administrative conduct of the judge and prosecutor at the time of sentencing. Confession Analysis. James Carter, the 14th of June 2012. The first sentence included technical legal vocabulary. Sentence structures followed administrative formatting. Sentence length far exceeded typical high school level writing. The phrasing did not match James's handwriting samples from Carver High School records. On the final page of the confession, 3 lines were visibly altered, changes made in a different ink. Faint smudge lines indicated chemical erasure. No witness initials, no legal counsel, no family representative present. James's signature was misaligned nearly half an inch off the designated line. Ink density was heavy at the start, fading toward the end. Signature stroke did not match the one on his scholarship application from 3 weeks prior. Victim statement: Emily Harris. 6-paragraph handwritten testimony. No evidence of coercion, no audio recording. Filed on the same day as James's confession. Time submitted 12:08 p.m. James's confession concluded at 1:12 p.m. The timeline left no room for cross-referencing, no confrontation between testimonies, no independent questioning of either party. Evidence review: independent verification surveillance footage from a security camera at North Park footage was blurry, but timestamp matched a clearer feed from the adjacent Citibank building. Footage showed a man exiting the suspect area at 10:03 p.m. It was not James. The man wore a gray jacket, was visibly larger in build with light-colored hair. Emily reported being attacked at 9:46 p.m. James was reported home at 7:30 p.m. A neighbor's testimony not included in the original court file. Further analysis: no DNA testing had ever been requested on the biological evidence during the original trial. Sample remains stored at Evidence Facility 3 Seal Code MHR 223. Retesting was requested on the 28th of December, 2022. The results were returned 14 days later. No match to James Carter. Match found Michael Reed, male, 30 years old at the time of the incident. 3 prior assault charges. Once arrested for suspected attacks on women in the surrounding area, case had been dropped for lack of formal complaint. At the time of James's arrest, Michael Reed lived 2 blocks from the crime scene. His name was not mentioned in any official investigative record. Declassified internal memo, early 2023. An internal memo from the district attorney's office revealed Judge Robert Klein had attended a charity event hosted by the Harris family just 1 day before the trial. Prosecutor David Lawson was also present, neither recused nor disclosed the association. A former court staffer who later resigned provided a voluntary statement. The verdict had been pre-written the day before the hearing. The court clerk had typed each sentence based on an old conviction template. There was no defense, no adversarial proceeding. Initial findings summary, preliminary report. The legitimacy of the 2012 conviction was compromised on all 3 levels. The case status was upgraded to full retrial required. Judge Judy signed the order to reopen proceedings, transferring the case to a higher court, while assuming the role of independent presiding judge. Her final line, handwritten in the margin of her personal notes, "Justice is not judgment. It is comparison backed by evidence, and when the evidence returns, justice must follow it back." The meeting did not take place in a courtroom. No clerk, no attorneys, no press. Just a private conference room on the 3rd floor of the Alabama State Courthouse. 2 people sat at opposite ends of a dark wooden table. Time 7:30 p.m. Date the 18th of January 2023. Robert Klein entered first. No robe, no files. Only an old leather notebook in his hand and a gaze that wouldn't meet another. Judge Judy sat upright, hands off the papers, eyes locked on her counterpart. No greetings, no water offered, no pleasantries exchanged. She began not with a question, but with 3 documents laid flat on the table. The confession showing signs of tampering. The new DNA report. The testimony of a retired court employee. Klein did not touch the papers. He stared at the tabletop. 12 seconds of silence were noted in the internal record. Then he spoke. Low, quiet. "I did what was necessary to keep the community stable." The sentence was logged, word for word. No edits, no embellishment, no interruption. Judge Judy did not shift in her seat. She didn't flip a page. She didn't respond immediately. Then she said, "We don't need stability built on burying a child alive under a sentence. We don't need peace if it's purchased with a bargain between power and lies." Klein showed no reaction. He exhaled slowly, still looking down, then nodded. Once. Briefly, Judy asked, "Are you willing to resign voluntarily?" He shook his head. She noted it. No intent to step down. She stood, left the room, did not look back. 1 hour later, the internal misconduct file was transferred to the State Judicial Review Committee, calling for formal accountability proceedings against Robert Klein and David Lawson. Grounds: concealment of conflict of interest, violation of fair trial procedures, manipulation of criminal justice outcomes. Under Federal Statute 19, a Judge Judy was confirmed as presiding authority for the retrial, with no objections from the judicial panel. In her personal journal, she wrote a single line at the end of that day. "Justice doesn't accept apologies that arrive after the truth, and I am not here to forgive what cannot be undone." The hearing was scheduled for Wednesday morning, the 28th of June, 2023, location United States Federal Courthouse, Jefferson County. Presiding Judge Judy, Courtroom 2. The first 4 rows were reserved for family members and public representatives. The remaining seats were filled by members of the press, legal organizations, and law students. Total attendance, 112 people. Duration of hearing, 42 minutes. No arguments were presented. No witnesses were called. No closing statements were needed. All evidence had been submitted and triple verified in advance. DNA mismatch. Falsified testimony. Invalid confession. Suppressed internal memos. Undisclosed conflicts of interest. During the hearing, former defendant James Carter was asked to stand. No prison uniform, no restraints, no statement required. Judge Judy read the verdict from a prepared document. Her voice was steady, unbroken, neutral. The court finds the 2012 conviction legally invalid. The entire process of investigation and trial demonstrated significant procedural misconduct. James Carter is hereby declared not guilty. All prior charges are dismissed. His legal record is to be expunged in full in accordance with federal statute. The courtroom did not erupt. No applause, no shouting, only a slow collective movement from people who had held their breath for 10 years. Sarah Carter stood. She did not cry. She walked straight to her son and embraced him as if she were holding someone born again by her own hands. No reporters surged forward. No microphones were raised. No one shouted questions. Michael Reed was arrested at his residence that same day. Charges were transferred to the federal criminal court. No bail granted. No statement issued. Robert Klein and David Lawson were suspended from legal practice. The State Judicial Committee initiated formal disciplinary review. News outlets across the country ran the same headline. The system failed. A mother did not. In the final internal court record, Judge Judy added no commentary. She simply signed her name at the bottom of the judgment. In bold red ink across the final page, James Carter, not guilty. August, Washington, D.C. Howard University campus. Event Open Forum on Justice and Local Judicial Reform, hosted by Howard University School of Law. Topic is Delayed Justice, Still Justice. Keynote speaker James Carter, age 30, Legal Street Addis, exonerated role, living witness to a system that once abandoned its own rules. The stage wasn't elevated. No lighting effects. Just a standing microphone placed in the middle of an open courtyard and more than 300 students sitting in stillness. James carried no papers. He didn't read. He hadn't rehearsed. His voice was steady, slow, not trembling, not angry. I used to be the name people avoided because they thought I was guilty. Then I became the name they avoided because they knew they had stayed silent when I was convicted. Justice isn't a church. It doesn't need us to kneel. It needs us to guard the door and never let anyone lock it again. No applause followed. No cheers. But someone recorded it. Someone cried. Someone lowered their head, not out of reverence, but because they realized they had once been part of the silence that buried a child alive. Later that month, Sarah Carter formally launched a nonprofit organization. Registered name, the Carter Justice Project, headquarters Birmingham, mission, legal and media support for wrongfully convicted individuals without legal representation. Founding documents stated, initial funding came entirely from individual donations. No government grants, no political affiliations. Media outlets began to refer to Sarah and James by a single phrase, two Americans who never stayed silent. Evening segments on CBS radio broadcasts on NPR and legal and social podcasts across the country quoted James's speech. Some law schools added his case to their curriculum, not as a legal precedent, but as a warning. Justice is not born on its own. It must be held, cleaned, renewed by those who refuse to stay seated when others are left behind. If your mother were kept outside the courtroom, if your child were detained without anyone being told, if your loved one were coerced into confession in a dark, windowless room, what would you do? If you were handed a verdict without ever being asked, if you knocked on 30 doors and no one opened, if you held on to a box of truth for 10 years and no one read it, would you stay silent or would you stay with the truth? Justice is not a god. It doesn't fall from the sky. It doesn't fly. It doesn't cry for help. It becomes an empty room if no one dares to speak. It becomes a false sentence if no one dares to reread the lines. Justice doesn't find its way on its own. It needs someone to clear the weeds, clear the dust, clear the blood. If it's James today, tomorrow, it could be someone you don't know, or it could be you. And when that day comes, it won't be about who believes you. It'll be about who never stopped believing in justice itself. So don't just listen. Don't just sympathize. Don't just feel moved. You're standing between two choices. Sit still and wait, or step forward and start clearing the path. Don't wait for justice to arrive late. Go find it before someone is buried with the truth.